Are we on?
Yeah.
All right, the special hybrid meeting of the commission will come to order. And we have with us both the Historical Commission and the Historic Review Committee. And I'd like everyone to introduce themselves. Marty?
Sure, Marty Skradunas. I'm with both the commission and the committee.
Ed Goldberg, I'm member of the committee.
Frederick Whitmer, I'm a member of the committee.
Mark Markevich, I'm a member of the committee.
Rose Rothbart, former member of the HRC.
Carl Rothbart, member of the HTC.
Did you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, Karen Willett, and I'm on the Charter Commission.
Okay, should we review the minutes or
I think.
we were really not?
Let's have
I move to wait, I move to.
Yeah, okay.
Waive the reading. of the-
Yeah, let's wait.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
we're
gonna
gonna
read the
read
reading of the
them.
minutes.
So
So moved.
moved.
All right, so the discussion of historic district, I would like your thoughts on one, preservation and whether we should add preservation as a component to the commission, whether we should combine the two commissions. And from what I've learned from the state, there are many towns that have already done this, and the statutes are in place and the language is all in place, which I couldn't be more excited that somebody's thought this through perfectly. But what are your thoughts so we can?
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, to which, the preservation or the?
I don't know about the preservation.
consolidation,
What
or-
is the preservation question?
The preservation question, we had two speakers, John England and Kevin Monahan,
Hmm.
who have lobbied hard actually in the last few years for the creation of a preservation commission.
Okay.
But when I looked into this, of course, commissions have to go through ordinance for the town council first.
Yeah.
But then I have learned that we don't even need to think about that. We can add it to this and enlarge the scope. And if you're all comfortable with that, and does that make sense? And would you want to do that?
I think the town desperately needs that because there's really little control over what happens beyond buildings that are in the historic district. And by the time things get to the historic review committee, contractor's already bought the property and has plans to demolish it, and it's late in the game to try and get anything changed.
It's very difficult because I'm still for some reason on the list to get the notices, the demo notices. And it doesn't.
The town list or the?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, my mailbox
I've
is
asked-
filled every week. It's
Is that right?
extraordinary. That many houses are coming down, 3-4 a week or.
The request to come down or
Yeah.
just to notice you that.
Oh, yeah, no, individual houses.
How many a week?
Sometimes 2, 3, 4.
Really?
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
surprised.
Sometimes it's a lot and then it's none. And,
Yeah.
And that's a lot to ask the public.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, there's, to understand the ordinance, like 15 days, 14 days, all that business, and to know, what language you have to put in there for it to even be accepted by the building official. Plus, the person objecting has to go research this. Has to go, find out, who owned it? Is it significant historically, architecturally? That's a lot to ask.
Is that one of you or is it somebody that's
It's
a
usually
neighbor
Mamie
that?
Finley. No, they can't do it.
Yeah, no,
You
it would
can't,
be
you
someone
can't look
from
into it.
the community.
Is that right?
No.
And Mimi's been doing that?
Proposal to do this right.
It's, go like that.
But, yeah, I had this conversation with Ms. Neville before. I drafted a rather long proposal. So I didn't.
I made 5 copies.
Well, it's long, I'm gonna ask for one because I drafted it on my firm's computer, and since I retired, I no longer have access to my documents. I'm sure I could ask somebody to look for it, but since it had nothing to do with clients, it's a little much to do. But anyway, you will see, since I assume you're prepared to hand this out, I drafted this in 2023, according to the document.
I looked up the email today.
Right, which came as a result of discussion within the committee. And the discussion within the committee. The discussion within the committee really relates to the fact that the power of the committee is virtually non-existent.
Yeah.
The leverage that the committee has is even less so. If you can get the irony of this. And the reason for this is that the jurisdiction of the committee is only triggered after there's an objection to someone having had a demolition permit granted. And as a result of that, that comes to the committee. The committee then has a meeting and decides whether or not it fits within the ordinance's description of something that should not be immediately destroyed. And we can issue an order, which the only effect of which is to give a 90-day suspension of the demolition. Now, the states, and this is mostly in the proposal that I put together with the concurrence of the committee at the time. The state's legislation, which grants towns the ability to create this kind of a body, permits the suspension of the demolition to be 180 days, not 90 days. Now, and that seems not a big deal on one level, because it's only another 3 months. But in effect, however, and you just heard the speech that you get from developers who buy the property. Well, I've already bought the property and I've already counted, this and I've already done that, and that. And all you people are doing is slowing down the progress.
So a wise developer will file for demolition the day he closes, knowing that he could have 90 or 180 days. So there's virtually no excuse in which time, unless they've already done all of their due diligence and planning for the next project, which sometimes happens before they purchase. But they should be able to do their due diligence and planning and engineering during that 180-day pause.
But the idea, one of the central ideas of the proposal was to change the timing, not with respect to the 180, with respect to the 90 to 180 days. Yes, we thought we were going to have that additional, but the principle of the proposal was to put the burden on the person seeking authority from P&Z, that at the time you apply for a special permit or to do anything in front of P&Z, that there is an affirmative obligation on the applicant to say whether there is a property or a premises within the property that would be subject to the Historical Review Committee's jurisdiction, and to make an affirmative statement under oath what their intention is. Namely, I'm not going to destroy the property under oath, or I have to demolish the property under oath. And I want it under oath because I really would like the power of a perjury possibility on somebody who signs, because it's easy to say, I have no current intention to do this.
Which is extraordinarily
They do it a
common.
lot.
It's
Yeah.
Correct.
pretty much,
Correct.
it's pretty much exactly what states, and then they come back, well, we've discovered there's, a rabbit has burrowed under the porch, so the whole house has to be torn down.
It's
It's really absurd
It's-
reasoning.
It's well executed and well thought through.
And even if someone,
it's well manipulated.
That's
Yeah.
pretty
Sometimes you have the issue of benign neglect.
Right.
yeah, and if someone tears down a house
Mm.
that's historic or not historic even, without getting any permits, the fine is $500. So, you know, they're building a
can
multi-million
Oh,
dollar
yeah.
house,
They can-
what's $500, is a
Is
joke?
that our fee or
I
is that
think
the
It's a
that's-
state?
state, it's a state problem now.
That's the
Yeah.
headline. But,
All right.
so the idea, one of the principal ideas it had here was to put this affirmative burden on somebody who comes in front of P and Z. And, you'll see if you read, you read the memo, that if this would require some change to P and Z's application, because you would make an affirmative, an affirmative quality to be considered by P and Z in doing anything would be the preservation aspect. And that, so you're coming in front of P and Z, and the argument about preservation is currently, if you come in and say, you shouldn't do this because there's this ancient house on the property, they can say, well, no, that's really not up to you. There's another committee that does all of this, and it's not really part of your list of considerations you would make. I'd make an affirmative consideration that the preservation of historic property should be one of the elements of the P and Z's decision as to whether to grant or not grant, or to grant on condition, whatever is being asked for. And the idea to do that as well is to postpone. In other words, the concept that, you know, the developer says, well, I'm not gonna file until everything's in place. And that he knows he does that. You now have a record with respect to what's being done, and then it lets people are on notice that there is the possibility that this is going to happen to a historic property. That, and there may be other more, I haven't read this in 2+ years, so there may be other things, but the idea was.
Did you ever present this to planning and zoning or?
It's
selectmen?
emailed, there's
Yeah,
the.
What is it?
It was emailed to 2 places.
Okay,
It was emailed to Chairman Butterworth, who was on the town council, and he was the chairman of the ordinance and amendments, whatever it was.
Mhm.
And Radman was the chairman of P and Z. And let me tell you what they said. And now I have.
And you had to take public time, didn't you? Was that the time you had to take public time to speak? Somebody was mentioning that to me the other day, that we don't have sorry, I'm not there anymore.
Yeah, right.
There's no connection. P and Z has no clue what HRC is doing. There is no connection.
I would say there's zero connection to the Historic District Commission either.
And I understand your point.
Yeah.
Your point was, I showed up and made a speech
Mhm,
in front of P and Z,
mhm.
and I introduced myself as a citizen.
Mhm.
That was obvious, but that I was a member of the Historic Review Committee,
Mhm.
and I wasn't speaking for them because we don't have the authority to do that. We have no standing to do that. It's not, if the part of the suggestion is to make it part of the consideration of P and Z, which would give standing to the committee to do something on the record in a more formal, official way.
There's just absolutely no communication. Like, we do our minutes, I take it to town clerk, that's the end of it. I finally started like copying more people on the thing. And I mean, our ordinance.
what would be helpful to you?
May I?
Yeah.
First,
yeah.
because I'll be having to go, I guess in a nutshell with my personal experience, so I'm on this committee. I'm on the Historic District Commission. I've been on the Waveney House, 2 different committees, one assessing the use of the house, one assessing the American with Disabilities Act requirements and how to incorporate. And these are all separate silos, none of which have any power or recognition. And then the other silos out there are the suggestions that we have a historic review of you know, the downtown and other areas. So they're all silos, none of which speak or are really allowed to interact. And I think that for the public to believe that preservation in general is of any importance, and may I add, this is New Canaan, for the public to understand that there's economic value, that the community can derive value and gains in worth through preservation, that I think it should come under a more central known entity. Either as part of planning and zoning or something, but it has to be known, and all of these different stakeholders should be able to communicate, and the public should know who to actually bring their concerns or interests to or support. No,
Where do they go now?
no place.
That's
no
my
place.
point.
Yeah,
So how do we structure this? How do we compose it that makes
Well,
the right?
we talking about having a person on the staff, like a paid person who's.
Not that I would expect.
Okay.
I don't think there's any.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I actually went to the main room. I didn't realize you guys were in the glass room, so I apologize.
Oh,
Marty, one of the things we have, which I sort of like, because I used to be on the historic commission, was it comes to us first as a sort of first step to see if we issue a certificate of appropriateness, right?
right. But
And
that's for, let's say, 15 to 20 buildings in this.
well, I was
Tiny little
I was gonna get to that,
Oh, okay.
So, that's sort of a vetting ground to make sure that things stay within the proper design and stuff, and then it goes obviously to P and Z. Does it make sense maybe to create something for a bigger section for all historic houses as a first ground before it goes to P and Z or something like that? I'm just throwing some ideas out.
I think it does,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think any property over 50 years old, if someone's interested in doing something with it, whether it's in the district or anywhere else in town, there has to be a first step. That property is identified as historic, and it should be some sort of early review by who, I'm
In-
not sure.
You have 50 years on that every year, you have more.
Well, yeah, so Judy and Karen, one thing I'll say is the due diligence is a matter of 5 minutes to know that you're the age of your building, and you have to know it anyway. And then the certificate of appropriateness is, again, a very, very simple thing to do. If we had a larger presence and resource, so very affluent, desirable places like Nantucket have design guidelines that ultimately preservation is what saved Nantucket. And so everyone is aware that there are design guidelines that they should refer to. And that's not saying they are law. There are some parts where there would be more specific guidelines, but then overall guidelines. And that should be something that can be replicated from many, many different communities and available online. So doing your due diligence to know your building is 50 years old or older, and reviewing online guidelines of how we can look at historic buildings for adaptive.
One thing I would say, Marty, one thing I'd say is 50 years is pretty tight in today's world. That gets us back to 1976, right? So,
Yeah.
maybe you're talking about 75 years. You want to get before 1950. It's like,
Yeah, but 50 years is an official.
I think
For what now?
I think my point would be, if you are going to do alterations, it should be no different and it would be far less onerous than, let's say, typical homeowner has to get a classified survey on their property to do very simple work at times. Like this would be less onerous and less expensive than that, to simply review your age and what the recommendations are for working with a building like that.
Do you know why they didn't put this within P and Z to begin with, as opposed to having it separate? Like, was the committee originally supposed to create guidelines?
I mean, I would say it was, my history in New Canaan goes back to 2019. And I would say it was just the majority of my residency here, New Canaanites have always said, we do it on our own. We don't follow outside rules, period.
And the town has always favored, the P and Z favors developers for some reason.
And-
They make.
And in
It's the economy of the town.
And in 2019, there was truth to that. There were older families. There were large corporate executives here who really made it a permanent home. And a real example was Texaco was traveling around the Northeast painting their gas stations gray. And at the time, there was a beautiful Colonial Williamsburg gas station where the abandoned TD Bank was. Red brick, slate roof, copper gutters, the works. And the way preservation worked then, someone did call the chairman of Texaco and said, hey, you know that beautiful station around the corner from your house? They're gonna paint it gray. And they picked up and they stopped it. That's how New Canaan survived, I would say, up through the 05s or the 10s or so. And then I think I saw that old tradition just completely disappear.
It was okay back then. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was, don't inform us of anything happening outside of New Canaan, I would say, for the last 15 years or more.
I mean, we work for many towns who are just, preservation is the focus of the town. They have historic buildings, they want to keep them. Here, it's the opposite. I mean, look at the town itself. They just tore down Irwin House. They tore down the brick barn, the library would have been totally gone in 1913 if it wasn't for a struggle, and it's still this half the building that's, not even being used. There's a real lack of an interest in preservation in this town, which seems amazing to me
But
because.
there's a lot of people interested in that. I mean, it's not formal and it's not structured, but maybe it could be. I mean, Westport apparently is the most recent example that was given to me. You probably know.
They do
more than I
well.
do.
Yeah.
They've done a good job of this,
Yeah.
and that's one. of
And
the
their
ones
new
that-
architecture
Yeah.
fits nicely. I mean, among the most basic, and I would say number one reasons developers say they have to tear the houses down is the ceilings are too low. They're 8 feet ceilings. Nobody wants to live in a house with an 8-foot ceiling.
The reality is, whatever they say, the reality is that the ground on which there is a structure is worth considerably more
Yeah.
than any of the structures.
Yes,
that's
right.
Yeah.
That is the
8+%.
absolute reality.
Yeah.
So it is, in fact, it's utterly remarkable when a house is redone. Even if it's just a major, down to the studs, renovation, it's remarkable when it's retained on some level. So that the economics of the situation are powerfully against preserving things as they are in the absence of, and this segues to the point I was gonna make here is when our committee was given the opportunity to review the house that is on the corner of Elm and Weed Street.
Hmm.
The focus of the continuing battle
Yeah,
with him whose name shall not be uttered aloud. But that structure was to be torn down.
beautiful.
And an objection was made to it. And the committee met and we reviewed the ordinance. And we reviewed our standards and we concluded it was a very nice house. But it didn't fit the standard. And so
Of,
the
The criteria.
criteria.
Now, I
the
would, I
criteria-
would have obviously disagreed because
Correct.
it was by a very well-known architect.
yes, it
Correct,
was.
it was.
I've been in it. It was,
It it was very nice, but the committee decided that it didn't meet the
the
criteria
threshold
sufficient
standard, yeah.
to have demolished.
At the most, it would have been a 90-day delay and that would have.
Correct, but
Which happened anyway.
what you might find interesting, and my colleagues here who were here that day, you will remember that we had someone who came in and really let us have it because he hadn't had notice that we were having this meeting. You remember this? The developer came in and said he didn't know that this meeting was happening today, and why hadn't he gotten notice? And my first answer to him was, well, you're here. You're here, welcome to the party.
Yeah.
And the bottom line was that to the extent that we had any power at all, it was just to delay by 90 days. That was it. And we didn't do that. And he took longer than 90 days to destroy it anyway, ultimately.
I mean, it seems to me that one of the most benefits of this is awareness, is bringing awareness, because if someone intends to build a new house, and someone is suggesting that, well, would you rather, renovate the old house? I mean, it's a no choice for the owner, it seems to me. I mean,
Because why?
because of cost, because of quality of
the houses.
the
that are
size,
being
the.
built.
Hey, guys, can I ask a quick
Level of-
question? I'm sorry to interrupt. It's hard to be here. One of the things we're charged with seeing if there's reasonable changes to make to the charter. So I just wanted to go around to each one of you and say, if you had the ability to change the charter, what change would you make? I mean, this is all great conversations and a lot of hypotheticals, but what exactly would you recommend to us as a
Oh,
commission
wording
to
and
change
content.
specifically?
This is mine. This is the committee's.
Okay.
This is a group from 2013 that made their remarks, their suggestions. This is this group back in, when was this? 2012? 2012, led by Mike Farrell. These are all, we've done this. Over and
I
over.
actually read this one today because I was going back to look at minutes because I'm not familiar with this group. And to me, this is an ordinance. Like,
That
have
part,
you
right.
worked with town hall? With town council?
well, that's the Butterworth,
Well,
because, yeah.
Because
I mean, we can make recommendations. to
Yeah,
town council.
I mean,
I drafted this for the purpose, exactly, because it makes suggestions of how ordinances had to be changed and they had to mesh. P and Z had to mesh with the town's ordinance that created the committee. That's what this is about. And it's somewhat difficult to read, I think, in some respects, but it had to be in some reason because it went together. What the charter could do,
Yeah, let's
Is
get back to
what
what
the
we can do.
what the charter could do is not to put this in,
No, that's too lengthy.
right. This is beyond weeds. Okay? What the charter can do, however, is to make an affirmative statement as to the value and in some respects, the economic value of having preservation as a benefit to the town. I mean, Nantucket is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Nantucket would probably be a forgotten little rock of an island without having the attraction of the preserved downtown and all the beautiful houses and so on. But I lost my thought for a moment. You say that preservation is a value and that it should be done in such a way as to amplify the ability for the citizenry of the town to know that, first of all, there's a preservation value and what individuals can do and what the obligations may be, including P&Z, including the building department, including all the committees and so on, to work together and not be trying to define something the way the blind men defined an elephant, depending on where it's.
That has happened into a small degree. I mean, the articles in New Canaanite covered some of the deliberations we had in the past and, but that's probably one of the few
Yeah,
places.
But that's unofficial.
and if I could, just because I'll be leaving, to your point, bringing, how can what did you ask if I could ask the charter review to do something to help preservation? If I could ask you
To include.
to,
We don't,
Right now, there's nothing.
There's
Right.
nothing.
if I
So
could,
it's
Similar
ask-
to adding them.
Then
with
right,
the-
if I could
language
ask
that's
something of
established.
the charter
Mhm.
review and the new charter would be to include an official recognized body of some kind that represents the whole umbrella of preservation in town. Something that can bring all of the individual silos together. In fact, I recalled something as you're stating. People would stop me from town hall when they would see me someplace, maybe Walter Stewart's or whatever, and they would say, "What are the preservationists saying?" And and when they said that, they specifically meant the Preservation Alliance. So
Yeah, that's true.
despite all of these groups, the decision makers at town hall really knew about and cared about what the Alliance was going to say, because the Alliance speaks the truth and they aren't afraid of hurting feelings.
But they tend to ignore us.
Right, but then the larger community only
It's a
knows.
self-imposed body. That's the
Right.
difference. It's not incorporated.
And then,
It's the
And
lack
this
of,
is-
it's the
this
lack
is
of.
what it
and I would say the larger community only thinks of the crackpots of
That's
the
right.
Preservation Alliance, and they don't
Building
realize
others.
that there's actually a very large community.
Yeah, there is.
And I've always stated this, I've never been a member of the Alliance because I've had the ability to talk to all parties. And that's been useful, I
But it
think,
shouldn't be you or us.
Right, it should be a public
yeah.
body. Yeah,
Sounds like you're making a case for having one
Yeah.
group.
Yeah, well, yes, I think
I
that's,
think that's the direction.
but also that group somehow is, respected and involved and in
As a
communication
presence.
with the other, the processes of planning and building in town.
Yeah.
But
It's not.
But whatever organization, however they organize, the concept of preservation being advanced and supported, whatever organization is doing that has got to be given meaningful authority to give leverage,
Mhm.
because we've seen it with a number of the projects that have been litigated. The developer has a seemingly bottomless pocket from which to draw cash to litigate with the town.
Yeah.
And the town's appetite for continuing to spend money in litigation is not going to be, it's exhaustible, and it's usually easily exhaustible. So that you have to have some meaningful way of enforcing this, and by by making P and Z or empowering P and Z in some meaningful way, which is in part of what is in the proposal that I drew up 2 years ago, giving them a mandate to make preservation part of their quality on which they could either condition a grant of their action or withhold their action on the basis of this. I think all of that is a step in the right direction.
But a real problem is, as long as there's only a $500 penalty for tearing down a property, a developer could just ignore everything.
Well, they are.
And they are.
But that's,
That doesn't happen too often.
but that's,
But it
but that's a
does happen.
Hartford problem.
That's a what?
Yeah.
That's a Hartford problem. Because you,
I'll just throw in this, I saw, a town in another state had that problem. And what they did, it was more of the blight that they were having a problem with. They couldn't charge enough to make people take care of the property. So what they did was they added a preservation fund on top of it. You know, I don't know that this is legal or not, but it was substantial enough that people were taking care of their properties better. So that was kind of interesting.
Is there a town in, Connecticut, you've mentioned Nantucket several times, is there a town surrounding us that has
The closest,
done this
yeah.
well in terms of their charter, plus the commissions that they have, plus their organization, TNT?
I asked the same question.
Have you ever spoken to Preservation Connecticut?
Yes, I spoke to them this
Okay.
week, actually,
All right.
both of them, the two
Okay.
senior people.
Okay,
And are any of you familiar with, I'm sure you are, the 7148-F-10 statute? Because that's the one that's already established. We can, literally take from
Yeah,
that
statute, yeah.
without any reservation or hesitancy. And
What's
apply
the number
what we
again?
want. She gave me was 7148-F.
Well, thank you all for the
Thank
opportunity.
you for
Bye-bye.
coming. I'm sure.
Yeah.
we're sorry, yeah.
Thanks.
And she said that almost everything we're even thinking about has not only been ratified, it's been incorporated as part of the district commission at the state. And then when I asked for towns that have done this
Mhm.
well, the one that
Mhm.
she mentioned was Westport.
Mhm.
And they're sending me this information.
okay,
So
and
I-
that is one of the things I printed out and then didn't bring.
Okay.
I-
So
I
the
guess it's the
Westport
same.
one, or-
No, it was, I don't know if it's the same, but it probably had those numbers in it.
All right.
Preservation Connecticut had I think you could go on the website and get, basically a sample ordinance for doing this well.
Okay, now she didn't say that, but that's interesting.
No,
So
it
that's
was-
on preservation or that's under the
That,
Historic District?
well, it was on my
Commission in Hartford?
computer is where I found it, but it said it was from Preservation Connecticut
All
and
right.
it was like dated 2017, so I don't know.
So
if
it was-
they've changed it.
All
I
right.
think the 180,
So is
That's
that
good.
Mary at the Historic Preservation or is that Stacy at the Preservation Connecticut? Man,
Stacy's Preservation Connecticut, Mary
Yeah.
is.
State Historic Preservation. Which one is
Office.
that? Or both?
No, Mary Dunn is the State Historic Preservation Office. But was, Stacy is not the head of Preservation Connecticut. I can't think of her name right now. I can see her. Yeah, Jane Montanaro.
Oh, Jane's the one that responded, yeah.
Okay, yeah, she's
Jane's
Preservation
the top,
Connecticut.
yeah, she's,
Yes.
yeah, right.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
executive director. And they
So that
have,
ordinance is she's already got that ordinance.
there was
written?
a sample one that I had saved to
Okay,
my
they didn't mention
computer
that.
in
All
all
right.
of this.
Okay, they just gave me the statute, the purview. All right, that's, well,
Yeah,
but I mean, the good news is if we want to do this, it's easy. It's not 10 steps.
right, there
but
are,
But how would you feel about, I mean, as you would like to have teeth in it, obviously. But how does that work with or against everything else if we combine the historic district and the commission?
well, the only thing I would say is, and I may be a lone voice about this is, but the bigger you make something, the more awkward it is.
It can be.
That's why dictatorships work so damn well. You don't have to ask permission.
You just do it.
And you don't have
Yeah.
to seek forgiveness either, so you can do this. I would not expand the number of people.
No, I think
Mhm.
if you put together, you're covered. I
Right.
think you're all right.
I mean, I don't know
Because
how many
it's
people on the
people.
district commission.
Well, there's four and
Oh, no,
four and
Well, we're
five,
missing
right?
two now.
You're missing two, yeah, because Tom's,
Yeah.
gone
And
and,
Todd is resigned.
Yeah.
So we're missing two.
No, I think, personally, I think it would, the more you streamline something, the
That's
more
right.
efficient it's going to be, and the more people can actually
Right.
talk to one another. One issue I've had with our ordinance in the past is the qualifications. It says what the qualifications are, and we've had some who I would say, I can't go into detail, but yeah, we're not qualified, but you know, it's hard to ask someone who like has a
And
full-time
it's
job. or
volunteer.
something. It's volunteer.
yeah, and people forget, it's a lot of work. If
Yeah.
you're working full time, believe me,
Yeah.
we've been there. I mean,
Yeah,
certainly
it's
have.
hard. It's hard to get
Yeah,
people with the qualifications.
So is it the Historic District Commission, right?
Yes.
That one, there's specific buildings, right?
Yeah,
So
it's-
now
Yeah,
just
it's
80,
limited.
Yeah.
Not in
So,
Westport. I think in Westport, maybe, I don't know if they are like an HRC also, but they have jurisdiction over, I think, anything on any register. I know any historic district, we don't have a lot of historic districts. But I think anything that's on the National Register, and what's also really important is eligible for the National Register. Because things that are eligible are basically, it should go through the same review process.
Let me ask a question here, which may go to something I said earlier. When you talk about a historic district,
Mhm.
that suggests a discrete,
Yeah.
definable meets and bounds area.
Yeah,
That's, Johnny was implanted in overlay.
Yeah, which is what we have,
Like, you know,
20-something buildings.
on your local.
So it sounds like
on-
the historic district would basically be where you go out and you decide which building you want to have to come to you, as opposed to just waiting until somebody wants to knock one down.
Well, then it should
Looking
be
at every one of them.
Yeah, but
establish an age. If it's over a certain age,
Yeah.
no matter where it's located in town, it has to go first to whatever this new group is that's set up for review. And then, it would seem like whatever that group is should issue, if it's appropriate, a certificate of appropriateness, or say this is not appropriate.
The problem you're gonna have here is something that was raised before, 50 years now, it's 1976. Now, having lived in a house that was 1739.
yeah.
I have deep feelings about about such houses. You can make it an overlay. If you figured out a way of doing an overlay, so you could designate like the Little Red Firehouse, Little Red Schoolhouse, it's on
Yeah.
that's on
Or-
Carter Street. Then that ought to have some kind of a designation. I don't know if it's on
Because
I think
somebody
it
knocked
is.
that down, they bought on it.
You can knock down.
Or does the
anything.
town actually make town even know?
No,
No.
I know that it was a private house.
Yeah.
Tom Butterworth lived in that house for time.
Yes, he did, yeah.
So they could, it could just be. nice.
Being on the state or national register does
Yes.
not prevent you from tearing down.
That's
a
right
home.
too.
So
Yeah, I
that-
learned that. Yeah, I know that's
The
true.
50 years,
It's like being tarred and feathered. It's the honor of it.
It's sort of the honor, but it also doesn't, I don't know that it reduces the sale value. People think that, but I'm not aware that it does. But people I've asked says that's not.
Well, what people thinking is that they can't do anything with the house,
But they
but they
can,
want to.
right, right.
That's the problem. It's the perception
Yeah.
that this is a problem.
but they also think it's only the outside,
It
Yeah,
is.
which it is.
which it
It
is.
is.
So they still have a lot they can do.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
And most people in the historic district, if not all of them, bought a historic house, an old house, because they care about old houses. We haven't met in over a year because there's not much activity in the historic district.
would you enlarge the historic district?
I
I mean, is it time?
There,
Is it time
okay,
to-
there are two things that are in that same area. There's the local historic district, which you guys are, in charge of, or whatever it is, review. And the other is the Churchill, what are y'all? It's God's Acre and Churchill, they're two. One is the local and one is a state historic district, which a few, 20 years ago, I believe the Historical Society put together a, nomination for about 100 buildings. And the process is that they presented it to the state said yes, but you have to have fewer than 50% objections. So there were more than 50% of the homeowners objecting to it being on the national register.
You have to have over 50
You have to have 51%
that object.
that object.
50% plus one usually.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, literally.
Yes. So it didn't go to national, but it was approved for a state register. So there are about 100 buildings there that are on the state register.
In God's Acre.
In that
and
area.
In this whole area.
Right, in that
But they're
area.
not overseen by anybody at
No.
this point.
They are not.
No, they're not part of our district.
Well, maybe by the state.
Are they
Office, but-
overseen by the state or not really? They didn't
Not
say
as
that.
much as if they were on the national, if they're on the national register, yes, then the state is the federal
Oversees the
government
national-
oversees.
Yeah.
And then the, Preservation Alliance redid that, talked to the state, should we redo it? Yes, redo it. And they're actually redoing a lot right now, just to get more information into these documents. And the same thing happened, our friend objected and got a number of people to object, and so it's.
To
it's that-
what specifically?
To it being listed as a historic district.
Which, the house that's in the issue on?
No,
Eden
no.
Which-
This same Churchill,
Objected to having it as a national historic?
yes,
And how long ago was that?
when the Red Cross thing was.
Was it?
Last few years.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, so it's in limbo right now. It's gone to DC, but it will just sit unless some of those 51 bring back. Now, bringing this up, there's a house on St. John's Place.
You know,
Are you gonna?
yes,
Okay, all right, because that's the other thing is, there's no communication, there's no
You-
vehicle for
you
you
sent it.
keeping.
I got your email and then I got notice. and
Yeah,
We're setting up a meeting to vote on this.
the process is flawed.
To vote on what?
To vote on whether or not we could issue an order suspending demolition of the building for 90 days.
Okay.
It's a house on St. John's Place in the state historic district, not in the local, that a demolition permit that has been applied for. And one thing that, a lot of times when we preservationists go before you guys and say, oh, this is a worthwhile building, the owner of the building who wants it demolished says, yes, but it's my property. And, this is my property value. I want to increase my property value by putting this building here. Well, what about the neighbor? The neighbor bought their house in the historic district, hoping to be in with like buildings, and it affects their property value. So whose property value is more important?
But so you are recommending, for instance, that the historic district, or I should say the Magic Circle, or maybe define the two, would be enlarged? So that everyone is included?
I personally, I don't. That doesn't. I don't.
Yeah,
No, it
doesn't
guys,
matter.
I don't want to interrupt, but we're getting way past.
Way beyond what we've.
Sorry, like you guys, I think it's all great ideas.
Yeah.
We're just talking about a charter. Like, we have to stay within like what we could put in a charter.
Well, but it depends on what the charter has authority over.
Well, that's
Not
the
none of
key.
this. We're going like very granular. The charter is more of a broad conceptual document that puts different, positions out there.
The
So,
charter,
for an
yes, but the
example, if
charter
the
needs to make a
door-
recommendation.
One thing we could definitely do is put the description of your mandates
Mhm.
in for both of those groups, or if you want to combine, I don't know if we have
The language is very small.
that stuff is not in the
mean,
charter at
yeah.
all. So even just having the concept in the charter. So 10 years ago, when they did the charter, for example, Health and Human Services and Parks and Rec were not in the charter. And they put those in the charter. They had already existed and people were using them, and they were doing government work, but they were not in the charter. So those made it in charter 10 years ago. There's nothing for either of these two in the charter, right?
But there
To
is
your point, though,
for the commission,
let
not
me
the
ask you,
No, there's no-
don't take this as being, it may sound offensive, but what's the purpose of the charter in the long run? And what
Great
is,
question. I think it's a great question because, you know, the charter's been around forever, right? We got hired as like, just people to come and take a look at what works and what doesn't work. If one of the things that doesn't work is that there's no communication between the Historic Commission and P&Z, that's something we could try to fix, right?
Mhm.
But absent that, our authority is not that broad where we could start giving, you know, enlarging the historic district. We can't do that.
or national versus state.
We don't
yeah.
have the authority to do that.
Yeah, I mean, the town council.
well, but then, so
Not
that,
even, not
so
even. It's state
your
government, yeah.
point, your comment.
I think
And by the way, I was on the
this.
historic commission for 5 years. You know, so I get it. I get the frustration as part of this stuff. You know, I worked with these guys until this charter came along. So I understand.
You missed the meeting when they were choosing who was gonna be on the charter commission. That's why you're on it.
I definitely, listen, there's a strong possibility I screwed up.
No, but.
Oh, we all did.
But if the point is, and I'm gonna rephrase this for a second, if the point of the charter is to reflect what the town wants and what it wants its government to do and how it wants its government to act,
Mhm.
rather than delimiting what is done and how it's done,
Yeah,
then that can be meaningfully done, I think, to say something along the lines of the sense of preservation has been a latent value among the people when it's never been in the charter. And then this is a way of saying, we want this to happen and we want it to work better than it does now. If that's as much as you think you have the power to do,
it's a start.
then that's what you do.
That's a start.
And then what you're saying is, it gives ground to go to the town council of P and Z and say, look, the charter says this, and you guys haven't done anything, you know.
Yeah, so
Think
listen,
about this, why don't we?
I think you're getting at a good point. So one of my recommendations to people that are in charge of different, you know, P and Z, so forth, look at the charter as it exists now and draft something that you think would be helpful to your commission and what you guys think that we should support. Then we bring it back to the rest of the commission, which is 11 people, and we take a look at it. That's like a really helpful thing for us. Because we're here as an objective body trying to do what's best for the town. Some of us may be preservationists. I might be. Some of us may say, hey, we don't want any part of it, you know. But if you have something that you think would be beneficial to the town of New Canaan, we'd love you to put it in writing and give it to us. It'd be really helpful.
Sounds like you already have everything in writing. We just
Several
need to
different
condense.
times.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
need to condense something and, you know.
Yeah, it just can't be.
Yeah, I think if you read,
Yeah.
you probably read if you read the other commission things that are in the charter,
Right.
it gives you a really good idea of like what the scope of the charter is. I mean, like, for example, the way that it's written on the website, just explaining what your groups do, I think covers a lot of it. It
Right.
basically says, this is important
Mhm.
and this is what we're trying to do.
I mean, there was a really interesting judicial decision that came down on the Historic Commission as it relates to the old Red Cross building from the courts. Probably something worth reading for you guys because the judge did a really good job of explaining the necessity of historic commissions and stuff. So you may want to take a look at that. There's some language in there that I think could be beneficial to what you're proposing.
Okay, good.
Do you have access to that electronically?
Yeah, so everybody does. It's under the
Yeah,
judicial website. And it's, the argument that Arnold Karp had made on that property. So you
Yeah.
could look it up, and it's about a 30-page decision. Worth reading.
Yeah, I've read through it.
I probably read it, but life. You were asking about, and Marty was saying, make the statement that, preservation is important. I don't know about the current P O C D, but the P O C D before had language like that in it.
About which?
Preservation being
Preservation
important
specifically?
in New Canaan.
Okay,
I don't know what it says
that
right
was,
now.
that was the one I think that was done when I was in.
Okay.
Yeah, they wouldn't have taken that out.
I have no idea
I
what,
remember it.
Revising the regulation.
thought they'd already done it.
No, the most recent one was a revision.
Planning and zoning is looking at their.
I did
Yeah.
yours.
That's
Yeah.
different from the P O C D, which
Yeah.
is just
Oh,
a overarching planning.
Yeah.
Document.
But the first one was done, like, 15 years ago.
Well-
This was the update.
But one of the problems, which I saw when I wrote this thing is, you really can't address these issues without looking at the ramifications across a whole broad range, because there really is P and Z and the buildings department and the variety of things you have to do. Because that's why you needed ordinances
Right.
to change what P and Z could do
Mhm.
and what the historic committee could do, or whatever the body is, who cares what who it was, or who's on it, you just have
Well, I think what happens is you put it in the charter. The charter is probably not gonna have that much teeth to it, but then you have to get a sponsor in town council to get all of that stuff done.
Well, who
Get
was-
the ordinance
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
and they're about to undergo ordinance review, but right now we're getting like a new ordinance every week that we think they should look at. It's constant as we're going through this. So, they have a lot and they're working on mowers, and blowers and noise. But after that, hopefully they'll get back to,
the memo that I did has suggested language, it takes the ordinances as they exist
Mhm.
and in italics puts in what we suggest to be added.
One, just to throw in like the thing with the working with P and Z, we get it, they get it, we got it. At the end of the process, where the owner has done everything, they spent all the money, they're ready to go. If the HRC or whatever this body is could come in at the beginning. And this was another complaint from realtors that they were showing houses and not necessarily knowing if they were historic, significant, whatever. That's a whole nother.
is that a published list somewhere in town hall, or is it just, you have to go on the state, or how do you?
Well, the Historical
Access.
Society has a list. The Preservation Alliance has been doing, these HARS surveys, chunks at a time. And the Historical Society now has it, and I think I also gave it to, town clerk. So you go in there and it's a 2-page thing, has a picture of the house, it says, everything about it and, historically who built it and all this stuff and how old it is. Now, the 50 years, I think comes from, you can't do a National Register nomination unless a building is 50 years old. And, unless it's exceptional. Now, what I find as we get older, we don't appreciate those things that were built when we were growing up. Just like there was not an appreciation for Irwin. We brought some of our younger people in our office to town. We were showing them the library that was about to be demolished. They looked at the 1970s edition and they said, they're not going to demolish that, are they? And we were like, they have a very different appreciation, like they like brutalist architecture. So we can't really judge necessarily what we think is worthwhile, because what we're trying supposedly to save is for the next generation and the next generation. They will have a different perspective. So that's why 50 is really important. 50 is a magic number, like, they said that nothing supposedly in DC, no memorials can be built unless it's like 50 years after the death of the person, because no one can agree until a number of people have left this earth.
Well, that
And
used-
then we have a new
used-
perspective.
And if there is a 50-year requirement for some review, probably the majority of properties, if they were built 51 or 55 years ago, would
It's a-
automatically say they're not significant, do whatever you want, but but there are older houses.
And it's really important for the moderns in New
Yeah.
Canaan. The 50 is really
Yeah,
important.
because so many of them have been lost.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. But
so
aren't they included? I thought there was a
Some
huge
are,
effort to,
some are.
Not all.
no,
Some are. Well, not
Well,
everyone wanted their
that's
property
right,
to be
I'm sure.
included.
Yeah.
Some are individually listed, some are in the group. But, so, yeah, it's a lot of moving.
All right, so the bottom, so you're gonna, who's gonna get us the language that you want? I've got the ordinance coming, I've got the Westport information coming,
I'll send you the thing,
and the statute, so who's going to
where's the thing that?
author this? And then we'll, Todd and Karen and I'll make a
Well, I
recommendation.
guess, personally, I don't understand exactly what you guys can and can't do.
Well, you know, what I'll do is I'll send you, I mean, this is way too much to read the whole thing, but I'll send you what, what the best parallel would be, maybe the Conservation Commission, just send you what the languages and just give you the idea. But I mean, what we can't do is say,
Preservation.
your process has to go to P and Z first, or it has to go to you before. We can't do any of that. We can just set a general, these commissions exist for this reason.
And have some teeth in it, and make sure the right components are there.
Can you recommend that ordinances be revised?
Not
We can
in here.
recommend to town council, but we don't have any.
Yeah, we
That's
can
not
create a
your-
list and they're
Yeah,
watching.
And the list is getting longer as we're getting further through
Mm-hmm.
this. So there's enough for them to definitely undertake, yeah.
Maybe like in the way.
The other thing you have to understand is we're supposed to be here, regardless of our personal views, as a neutral body for the best interest of the town. So again, I own an 1841 house. You know, that doesn't mean I'm gonna vote for something that's preservationist or recommend it. I might not. So we're here to listen to you. Like, we just want to hear the best ideas and then we discuss them and then we vote on them. Like, I don't know what else to say. Is like, we're here to listen to everybody. We're interviewing, I think, between the three different groups,
Almost 100.
100 people. And we're looking for ideas that make sense to make our town better. Right? So anything you could do for us that'll help that is what we're gonna do. And then we sit down as a group, we canvass it, and we see if we can come up with recommendations to help the town. You know, and I know like my ideas are gonna definitely be different than everybody else's ideas. You know, so you just have to proffer and give us whatever you think is gonna help this town and make the charter better. So if you read the charter and see what's there, that'll give you some guidelines as to what's in it and what we can do and can't do. Or make it better or expand it a little bit. All right. Ordinances are totally outside of our purview.
Well, that is kind of our problem.
Well,
Yeah,
one
right,
step
right.
at a time. And you have a 10-year window here. And we're thinking of doing all this now to try and make it better. And then hopefully within the next few years, but it doesn't, you know, other towns have done this and preservation is an asset. It's not to be, you know, for people to say, oh my God, here they go again. It's part of the town and the town
It's
body,
one of the main reasons
Yeah.
people move here.
or so they
It's
think.
because of the
So they
environment.
think.
And
That's
then they
right.
get here and they're like,
Yeah, yeah,
I love you, now change.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Unfortunately, state is not helping.
No.
It's a much bigger issue, but I was about
Yeah.
to say,
Yeah.
I was about to say that, we may all be whistling in the graveyard. Because the state's view towards local control over zoning. For
Oh,
example,
it's disappearing quick. It's bad.
It's very yeah, maybe, but you know, maybe things will change. I mean,
I
I'm,
don't know.
I don't know.
It's tough.
It's not, it's a bad situation right now.
So you can recommend a preservation
We
umbrella,
we could
whatever. it is.
recommend the umbrella,
Right,
get it right,
Yeah.
include whatever is, within that jurisdiction, and again, it's gone.
but that
through
would
the
mean,
state,
if
so-
you, but if you combine these two groups, that would mean new ordinance.
That would mean it'd be a.
Yeah, then the ordinance would be in
With
conflict with the
the
charter.
under, yeah,
Mhm.
right.
But it wouldn't maybe, there's nothing that we can write, I think, that will get you what you exactly want. Like,
Not in
that's
the
not
charter.
required
Not
change.
you
to
guys.
it,
No,
and
not
everything.
specifically in the charter,
Yeah.
but certainly.
But you could write, for example, we think there should be one group.
Right.
Oh,
You figure
Yeah.
out,
we'll
and
inaugurate that.
And that's just how you get there.
How you get
No.
there is the
Yeah.
language we need.
I think the best example is, I think the last charter commission recommended that we have an audit commission, right?
Yeah,
And that was never here before, but we felt it was something.
that was a new
so-
commission. This is
Yeah.
easier than starting over. Yeah,
Getting rid of them,
yeah,
paring down.
yeah.
What would be great, the bottom line is if this was all simpler and clearer for everybody, including the owners.
Yeah,
The realtors, the owners, everybody.
well, that's the next group that needs to be
That would
educated.
be
Yeah, it would be the
great.
realtors. That would be
But
wonderful.
developers don't want simplicity with respect to this.
No. No. Probably not, but
Well, but you can say, it's so simple, what's your problem?
Right. So simple that only children could do it.
I mean, it's the reaction you get every time there's a low income perspective
Mm.
is, oh, it's okay there, but oh my gosh, could that happen, half a mile from me, because there's a similar property. You get into everybody now getting very queasy.
But you look at,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been to downtown Wilton lately,
Yeah,
but there's now a 5-story office building, like right next to the post office. That just.
Everywhere.
It's just in the middle of nowhere. You got the 5-story apartment building. Because somebody was asleep at the switch.
No, it's because local zoning doesn't matter.
Right.
but see, local zoning has to matter, and that's,
But
It should.
when it comes to affordable housing, it doesn't matter.
well, maybe I don't know if these overlays they're working on in planning and zoning are going to alter that or not, but
No, I have nothing against
nothing to do
affordable
with it.
housing.
Yeah,
but-
I know, but
but,
it's where and when. Yeah.
It's the,
But the real issue is that affordable housing is the cover story. That is never really what is going on. If it were really affordable housing, very few people would say no. But it ain't.
Right, it's a.
And it doesn't
incredibly
revert in
limited-
20 years.
Correct.
So that's where the escape is. It's not really affordable housing.
Correct.
It's just
Hmm.
until I can get all my money.
Correct.
And
That's
it's
not
what,
affordable.
15% of the units need to be.
no,
10.
I don't know, it's
I
very
think
low.
it's very low. So if they had to build affordable housing buildings where
The whole
100
thing.
units were affordable, that would be a different story.
Yeah. 'Cause
And
that-
if it were nicely designed. I mean, that's
Affordable forever.
Forever, right?
But see, that's
It's just a
that-
gimmick.
it's
That's
a
what-
gimmick. That's all it is. And that's why it shouldn't be working this way. It was really a dumb idea. I just can't even get over how.
See, I thought this affordable housing concept in New Cambridge was all these cute little houses that used to be here, that you could afford to
Right.
buy,
Right.
right? The starter houses that I'm still living in, yeah,
Just it's
you know?
But the problem is what I said before.
the price of the
The
life.
starter house
Yeah.
is now sitting on land.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
But I was remanded to the state with Darien and Greenwich. I think it was 04, 05, and they said, if you don't get on the ball on
Mhm,
this, we're
mhm.
gonna do it for you.
Mhm.
And I immediately called Hobbs and he agreed to start working on 123.
Hmm.
But there was no follow-up after
Mm.
that. I mean, all we did
Well, that's,
was
you get to the,
revitalize what we had and
Yeah.
expand on it a
Yeah.
little.
it's just that it keeps fighting itself. You get your numbers in the right place.
But they
And
they
then-
weren't ever in the right place for the last 20
But
years, so.
the purchase of the Avenue property.
Yeah.
Was a moment of brilliance for the town.
Well, yeah, and I'll tell you, and Bob Spangler pulled his weight there. He got that done. It was just remarkable.
Yeah.
I brought him in. I've known him forever and I thought he will do it. If anybody can get it done, he will do it. And He
Amazing.
did.
Yeah.
He got it done. So if, you know,
And Scott Hobbs with respect.
oh, and Scott was right there. The two of them was deck a deck.
Is
Thank
that all
God.
affordable or?
Yes.
It will be. I mean, as it
100%
turns
Will be,
over,
as it turns out.
as it turns out, you know. That you have to give them credit. Both
Oh,
of them, just huge.
Right.
Huge.
It's remarkable.
All right, anybody want to add anything else? And so you're gonna get us the follow up, and can we have copies of what you brought today so that, all right, if you have, if not, I'll run in and,
Yeah.
so is this,
I-
okay, this,
I only had it like-
and what, and the article or the memo or the, recommendations you wrote before, who's got those? You have,
I just handed you what I.
this is yours, and what was the other one you were
Okay, so,
referring to?
this is, an early version of that, basically.
Is this an extra
Very
copy?
minimal, that's Mike Farrell, if you wanna write down Mike Farrell.
Oh, all right, oh,
Do you
really?
need that or?
I know, even on the computer.
Oh, okay,
This was a group that got together, like, the Historical Society, the HRC, NCCPA, a bunch of people in 2013 to try and fix the ordinance. That didn't ever work, and this is,
this was given to town council?
I don't know that they never went anywhere.
Oh,
We met
all
maybe
right,
once or
well,
twice,
The
and that
language,
was
the
good.
language might be there.
The memo that I did went to Butterworth and Rand and went.
Right,
If you want, yeah,
yeah,
all right,
yeah.
all right.
And then the last one's just
Basically,
me.
what are we asking? Basically? We want a 180-day delay.
I don't think they can, they just,
That's an okay.
That was in the state, hold on, she gave me that,
That would have to be the ordinance.
The
that
state,
was
That
the
should be
ordinance,
changed.
that was
state
the state.
empowers up to
empowers.
180
Yeah,
days.
that's what she
The
said,
the
yeah.
ordinance in New Canaan is only for 90 days. So
Now,
now.
so you want to make it 180,
Yes.
is that what, you all want that
Yeah,
in there?
that's,
Okay.
that, and that's in the memo I gave you.
All right,
It's in the ordinance.
and that has to go in the charter, or Todd, do
No.
you know? That doesn't, that's not a charter. is it?
that's the ordinance.
You
That's
you
not
don't
the ordinance.
you don't need to get into the weeds as to how you do this. You just say what you want to have done.
Yes,
Right.
correct,
Right.
100%.
I like 100%.
So that we don't need.
To create this group, to give this group teeth,
Yeah,
to have this group work with the P and Z or whatever building department, whatever the process is. I mean, there are a lot, but I think those are the basics of it.
But we want to include properties that currently are not looked at until a demolition notice comes.
Well, the demolition notice, if possible, should be the very first thing, not the demolition notice, but the review by this group would be the very first thing that
First
happens.
thing, yeah.
There's in a general concept, in terms of what you want to have done. Advancing the obligation of the developer. I would use that as a catchphrase. Advancing the obligation of the developer to bring to the attention of the relevant preservation groups and P and Z at the earliest possible moment, and no later than their first application to P and Z for any zoning relief.
And basically, we're fighting the developer who
Do-
looks for larger pieces of land, which he can use to do whatever he wants with it,
Well, they're.
based on,
they're a lot
based
of
on
things.
state ordinance right now.
That's a big problem.
based on what state
The
order?
state affordable housing,
Oh, the affordable,
A
yeah.
half mile of a railroad station.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I know, I know.
I think we should give up on railroad station.
Well, you know, this was Nickerson and myself and Heatherington made many trips to Hartford. And we ended up with an agreement that that property in the bottom of Talmadge Hill, which is where they put their equipment, that the town could lease that indefinitely, and that would be because it's right there with the train station. And of course, it requires water and sewage, which is an expense for the town. but at least it was codified, and and here we are 15 years later and nothing's happened, and it still should be an ideal location if they haven't, rescinded their agreement or will rescind the agreement. So we had a lot, Nickerson was very helpful in that kind of thing. He was remarkable. So there's, it's not like there's nothing been done. It just
No.
doesn't look like there's anything that's been done. So anyhow, we'll get there.
I can
you
imagine
know,
one
what-
more thing about the
Yeah,
sequence.
I wanted to ask you too.
Um,
Okay,
One really good reason for it is because I believe that, they go through all this process and then they go apply for the demo permit. When they apply for the demo permit, they have to have already identified any hazardous material, and I believe they have to have removed it. So a lot of the times the houses or building is already just gutted. For instance, there was their house on Ponus that was notified recently, and we drove up there and looked at it. The windows were all gone. So it's just like snowing into it and everything. Really kind of cool, second empire house. And so the house is already like, it's just too late sometimes. By the time you get to that application.
That's your benign neglect.
Yeah, right, yes.
that's
Purposeful
a
design.
good word
Yeah.
for it. That is a good word for
Yeah,
it.
so anyway, just
Yeah.
little tidbit for that.
Which is what continues to happen with the Red Cross building. And it really
Yeah.
needs, to be
Yeah.
fine because it's a blight and it's falling apart.
And defeats the argument, yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
What would you call this commission? I mean, would you call it historic preservation? Or would you call it, what would be your incorporating?
I think it's unfortunate that it can't also be combined with conservation, because
I looked into that and the answer was absolutely not. That's not. what
our
they do.
department,
I thought of that.
our
yeah.
department,
Yeah.
and originally, I think the preservation program at Columbia University was the conservation program, and our department was the conservation. And that's really actually the thing that's speaking to younger people about preservation right now is
Yeah,
the
it is.
landfill
Yeah.
situation.
Mhm.
And just creating more waste as you take these things and
And
throw
all
them
all
away.
the people who work in the Morgan Library or the Metropolitan, they're all conservators.
Right.
They're not preservators.
Yeah, preservation's kind of, the P word's kind of a bad word, so I might,
Well,
And I
no,
look.
why don't we change what it means? I mean, as opposed to just an obstinate,
Right.
Assessment,
pardon?
assessment.
yeah, but you want historical assessment? Or-
I think you want the word
Architecture.
preservation, you want the word historical. Is there anything else that should be in there? You want review and,
Well, but you know,
Or-
one of the things that I've heard in one of the last political campaigns in town was talking about preserving the character of the.
Character's a bad word.
And I know. It's become a bad word, right?
Like preservation.
Right.
Bad word.
Right. But there are other bad words, like girl. You can't say
History, is
girl.
that-
Yeah,
Is history a bad word?
No. But I think the, if you said something along the lines of like a commission to advance the historical character of the town.
Value.
The
what about
value.
architectural and historical review? Because it's not just whether it's historically significant, it's whether it's got architectural merit. And that's really what's in, like, the National Register, does it
Yeah.
meet
That's-
these architectural,
That's a nice idea to,
architectural and what? though?
historical,
You want historical and architect, you want architectural and historical?
I think. I
I
would put
I
architecture
want to
first.
think about it.
Yeah, please think about it, because it's broadening now. I don't have a problem with the word preservation in there, but if you think that's
No,
going in the wrong direction, then I don't know. Todd,
It's
do
unfortunate.
you have a thought on that or?
Yeah, I have broad thoughts, so, we could add a lot of things to it. I don't think the name's that important. I wouldn't get hung up on it. I think it's a
Well-
conceptual thing that we have to
It
figure
is
out.
conceptual, totally. It's visual.
Yeah, but I agree with that, but in a world that doesn't read details.
Yeah, it's clips.
It's.
Historic
it's-
conservation,
everything's a-
the
everything's
preservation,
got buzzwords.
conservation and historical commission.
What was it,
The Preservation, Historical and Conservation Commission.
But we've already got a conservation.
I can't do, I
Okay.
can't put,
I'm just
I already
joking.
asked that this
I'm
week
joking.
and nobody wanted that idea, so. You could do preservation and historical, you could do historical, architectural. You could do
I
You could do,
architectural.
you could do the Historical
Yeah.
Preservation Commission.
Well, that's what I started with, but I wasn't sure if that
I'll
was.
tell you what, I'm gonna, shoot
think
it out, I'm gonna shoot it out to a group that,
All right, that's good.
They have-
Get some input, yeah.
Which
great.
leads me to the question I should have asked earlier. Where should we send this? Anything you would want to receive?
Well, we have
This
special.
email, Judy.
You can email it privately, but we have a town. You can email it to the three of us on our town. Let me make sure I'm giving you this right. It's, oh dear, come on. What is it? If you go reply. You probably know it off the top of your head, Karen. It's in it to our whole group. It goes to the CRC, which is the charter, the vision. What is it here? Let me give you my personal email. It's J Neville, NEVILLE 13, ILLE 13 at AOL.com. And that's, I've had that forever. So the town would kill me if I changed it.
So
The other
group
group,
then is CRC distribution.
Yeah.
And that's at New Canaan CT.
Yeah, that's what it is, distribution. Thank you, Karen.
New Canaan?
New Canaan CT.
Yeah,
spell out New Canaan,
Yeah.
the whole thing?
CT dot.
New Canaan, CT.gov.
It's automatic for us. That's why it's
And
not
then the whole
spelled
commission will
out.
get it. So- And the whole commission will get it so that they can.
Or, yeah, you can send it to the three of us, which have to redirect it, or you can send it to the whole commission.
Eventually it goes to the whole commission, so.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
I
Yeah.
said eventually it'll go to the whole commission,
to,
it'll be
yeah.
right to us.
yeah.
In the ordinance, it says, if the structure is determined to be of historical, architectural, or cultural significance. So those are the three big buttons.
Okay.
It's historical, architectural, and cultural. So you call it the Hat Commission.
There you go.
Great,
Hmm,
perfect.
That would be interesting, architectural, cultural.
Yeah, that's a nice feel for it.
Yeah, that's not bad. I like that. Let me know if you come up with anything better, but that's not bad at all.
That is good.
Yeah, what do you think?
I like it.
Yeah, I do too. All right,
So those are,
anything else?
that's a
that you want?
criteria,
All
that's a
right,
criteria that the committee uses.
That's in
Right,
the
right.
ordinance, yeah.
we have a motion to adjourn. Todd, you want to
So
second?
moved.
All right, all those in favor, aye, thank you. Whatever time it is. Yeah.
Well, thank you
All right,
for having
thank
us.
you, everybody, for coming. Are we all?
No, because I'm also.